Alright guys, we need to talk about Carlos Corberán and West Brom because something is happening at the Hawthorns right now, and I for one am all here for it. We're going to be taking a deeper dive into West Brom's season so far and analysing just how good of a job Corberán's actually done with the Baggies up until this point. It was another fantastic win for West Brom last night, 1-0 against Cardiff. Jeremy Sarmiento with an absolutely terrific strike to win it. That result now leaves West Brom third in the Championship. They're joint top of the form table at the moment with Southampton. I think it's about time we gave Carlos Corberán his credit. Any West Brom fans watching, I'd love to get your perspective on your season so far and Corberán in the comments down below. I think to fully appreciate the job he's done at West Brom, it's worth remembering what the picture was like when he first inherited that squad last season. So this is now West Brom's third season in the Championship since their relegation from the Premier League. Their first season back down at this level, they finished 10th and it was a real topsy-turvy season for them. They started the campaign out with Valorant Ismail, and the early signs were fairly promising under the then new boss. They looked like a playoff challenger until around January time, but then their form took a drastic tail off. They then hired Steve Bruce for the second half of that season, and the less said about that appointment the better. Despite a lot of West Brom fans not being keen on Bruce heading into the 22/23 season, West Brom decided to keep him on, and the start of that campaign was an absolute disaster. West Brom only won 2 of their first 16 matches in that campaign, and understandably so, Steve Bruce was promptly fired. Corberán then inherits a squad who's sitting 23rd in the Championship and almost instantly manages to have an impact there. He wins 9 of his first 11 matches in charge and manages to get West Brom back to within playoff contention, but then a bit of an inconsistent run towards the back end of the season meant that West Brom ultimately just missed out on the playoffs. But considering the state of affairs he took over at the Hawthorns, it was impressive that he got them so high in the table in the first place. Then fast forward to this summer and there was even more turbulence for him to deal with. Now, we covered it quite extensively on the channel throughout the summer, but the ownership issue at West Brom was all a little bit of a mess. There were real fears going into the summer that West Brom would have to sell players, there wouldn't be any incomings come in, and in the end, while the picture wasn't as damning as a few of us first thought it might have been, Corberán really wasn't working with a lot in terms of ins. Dara O'Shea was sold to Burnley, and then Corberán was tasked with bringing players in on either loan deals or free transfers. He managed to sign 3 players in the end, Josh Maja on a free transfer and then Jeremy Sarmiento and Pippa on loan, and that's all he was afforded to improve the squad. And so despite having one hand tied behind his back, he's actually managed to improve the Baggies quite considerably this season. And I thought it would be worth comparing West Brom and some of their underlying stats to the other sides who currently sit in the top 5 of the Championship right now. So going off points per game, this is how the top teams in the Championship currently break down. Obviously, West Brom are third in the league right now, but some of the sides around them do have games in hand and are to play tonight. By far and away the best team in the league this season, it has been Leicester, picking up a massive 2.47 points per game. And you can see the breakdown there of the other sides who are currently in and around West Brom. They're currently averaging 1.77 points per game, which if projected over an entire season would be worth 81 points, which would be a huge season for the Baggies and would definitely secure them a spot in the top 6. For context, West Brom finished last season with 66 points, so if they do manage to achieve 81 points this season, that'll be an improvement of 15 points this time around, which is a huge leap forward considering no real investment went into that side over the summer. From a goal scoring perspective, Ipswich have been by far and away the best side in the league this season, averaging 2.11 goals per game. It's then Leicester, but West Brom very much up and around the numbers that both Leeds and Southampton have been averaging so far. Leeds and Southampton both averaging 1.64 goals per game, and the Baggies only slightly behind that on 1.61 goals per game. Having a bit of a deeper dive into the underlying stats for West Brom and their chance creation, they rank 12th in the Championship for XG accumulated, but in terms of XG over performance, they've been the 3rd best side in the league this season with an over performance of 5.4 goals, which is the joint 3rd best record along with Cardiff. Only Preston and Plymouth have overperformed their XG by more than West Brom have so far, which shows how clinical they've been in the final third. And if you've watched West Brom over the past couple of seasons, that's been an absolute far cry from the team they previously were. You know, we always we used to speak about West Brom in the terms of how many chances they'd create and miss, but that's no longer the case with them right now. But the area where Corberan's really been able to impress with this West Brom outfit so far has been their defensive record. Now, Leicester have been by far and away the best defensive outfit in the Championship this season, conceding just 0.58 goals per game, but of those sides currently in the top 5, West Brom have the second best record, conceding just 0.94 goals per game, so less than a goal per game they're conceding right now, and that is significantly better than the likes of Ipswich and Southampton especially. Once again, having a bit of a deeper breakdown into West Brom's defensive stats so far this season, they've conceded an XG of just 17.7 so far, which is the third lowest XG conceded in the Championship, with only Leeds and Leicester conceding fewer. That right there is really impressive and shows that this defensive record that West Brom have had this season has been no fluke. Yes, Alex Palmer's been really good in net, but that whole defensive unit from front to back has been good at limiting quality chances going against them. From a personal standpoint, of the sides that I've seen up close and personal that have come to Deepdale so far this season, West Brom have been the best team I've seen in the Championship so far. They absolutely wiped the floor with us that day. They beat us 4-0, and despite Preston actually having more of the ball, we only managed to muster 1 shot on target against the Baggies, and they had 19 shots, 6 on target, and absolutely were dominant from start to finish. Real power throughout the spine of their squad, which was apparent on the day. And then they've got some excellent technical players who are able to knit all of that together, the likes of John Swift, who they haven't even been able to call upon throughout the whole season because he's been out injured, but he's been really effective when he's played. I think that Grady Garner has looked a lot sharper than he has in previous years so far. Seems like he's got a bit more of a spark about him this time around. And when you build the rest of that squad up with solid Championship players into a cohesive system with a tactically aware coach like Corberan, who has made the top 6 before, let's not forget, in a huge underdog story with Huddersfield, it just feels like despite all the chaos that was going on behind the scenes in the summer for West Brom, everything's slowly falling into place for them right now. So how does the fixture list look for West Brom for the upcoming month of December? Well, this is going to be a really testing month for Corberan's men, and I think that this will be a real test of character where we see what the Baggies are made of, because if they can come through what's looking like a pretty tough December, then suddenly I think a lot more people will be taking them seriously and their promotion credentials this season. The next 2 games in the Championship see them going up against Leicester and Sunderland, 2 real tough looking games there, and they also have games in December against the likes of Middlesbrough and Leeds United as well, so a lot of tests coming up for the Baggies against sides who I would expect to be mixing it with them in and around the top end of the Championship come the end of the season. Up until this point, I think their record against good Championship teams has been really quite good. They got a point against Leeds earlier in the season. They've already beaten Middlesbrough, they beat Hull, beat Ipswich as well. Now I know they lost against Southampton, but put in a really good performance on that occasion, and on another day I think probably could have got a result there as well. So I certainly wouldn't be fearful as a West Brom fan heading into those tough fixtures, but there's always that little bit more apprehension that comes along with those fixtures against the big boys. What's also been impressive about West Brom this season is the fact that they've been without Daryl Dike throughout the entirety of the campaign so far, as he's still recovering from an injury he sustained in the back end of last season. I know that his availability hasn't been great since signing for West Brom, but a big player for the Baggies nonetheless when fit, and Corberan's not been able to rely on him so far. So overall, I have to admit, I've been really impressed with the Baggies so far this season, considering the picture there behind the scenes at the start of the season and how grim things looked. I don't think a lot of West Brom fans were expecting much at the start of the season. Despite that, Corberan's knitted together a really cohesive system, and as things stand, it looks like the sky's the limit. They look like a really competitive side who will be in and around the top 6 this season. I'm very excited to see how they get on over this festive period, which could be make or break for them in terms of their promotion push. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Any thoughts on West Brom? Make sure to get them in the comments down below. What have you made of the Baggies so far this season, whether you're a general Championship fan or a West Brom supporter yourself? Other than that though guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.